Hey everybody, thanks for checking out the Backyard Gardens podcast.
If you like what we're doing and you want to continue to support the podcast, head over to our Patreon page to sign up.
You can also make a one-time donation using PayPal. Both of these links are in the description.
With your support, we can continue growing and helping others in their gardens. See ya!
I started seeds in the winter, I planted in the spring, I planted in the summer, I fought pests and disease all year long. I rebuilt, I built, I dug, I weeded, I did all of this stuff, and now I'm doing it all over again for fall into winter, and I smiled the whole time, but damn, I am tired. Right here in the Backyard Gardens podcast, Minisode.
To have a good harvest, one must plant good seeds and must also use the right kind of fertilizer. The carrots have grown large and firm. How good they will taste.
Welcome to the Backyard Gardens podcast, where we talk about all things gardening and give the information out for you to be successful in your garden, whether it's your first or your last. We are your hosts, Ben, the Backyard Gardener, and
Batavia, the Front Yard Gardener.
one in the country,
One in the city.
Now get ready as we dig deep into this wonderful world of gardening, as we learn to grow and grow for change. I didn't even add in the toll that the podcast takes on us, but I don't think a lot of other people can relate to that, so I'm cool with that. But overall, like gardening this time of year, I start to realize exactly how tired I am. Mm-hmm. You?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I'm like right now today, right in this moment, I'm tired.
Yeah. I love it. Don't get me wrong, but I start to lose that intestinal fortitude that keeps me going, especially like for me right now. It's like the dog days of summer. It's hot still. Mm-hmm. You know that the cool down's coming, but it's not here yet. But then at the same time, like the mental toll takes on, because then I get sad that it's going to get cool.
Yeah, I agree. So for me, this is the next big wave of my garden. Like right now, as this airs, like we're in the throes of it. You know, things are dying, but I wouldn't even describe them as producing. They're definitely getting to the point where I'm harvesting a lot more. You know, so sometime between mid-August and mid-September, like it's a big time for me in my garden. And the days are absolutely getting cooler. And so I'm changing my routine. I'm spending more time indoors with kind of the harvest and all of that. And while I enjoy that, because that's an end goal, that sadness starts to set in. Right. And things don't look as promising, right? Even at the beginning, when you're doing a lot of work, you know, you have that, all right, this is the beginning. It's the what is it called? Honeymoon stage.
Honeymoon phase. Yeah.
And things are starting to grow and sprout. Now it's like things are brown, you know, like it's not as encouraging, you know?
Yeah. You don't have that bright, vibrant green of like fresh growth. Yeah. And you're like, all right, I'm just going to save this one plant. I'm going to push, I'm going to fight. And it's tough. And the benefit of doing a multi-seasonal gardening like I do and you do is you get to see that new growth again, though.
Mm-hmm. Excellent.
And you get to see it. And this time of year, like in the fall, you actually, I feel that it encourages me to push through, because right when everything else is dying, I can go out in my garden and be like, yeah, but this thing is looking good. You know, you got some fresh leaves coming. You got cabbage loopers to fight. You know, the fight ain't done. So it's this way for me. The older kids, the older plants are kind of on their own. You know, I left some money for pizza. Oh yeah,
and I'm babying the newer ones.
Oh yeah, don't even call me if you're having an issue. Like, you're good. You know, your numbers up. No, it's like, I mean, my tomatoes, for instance. I'm going, you know, they're making me tired. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And they are actually reblooming now because we stopped getting into the 100s all of a sudden. Mm-hmm. So everything's starting to bloom again. So I'm like, all right, maybe I won't take you down, you know, because that's the one thing that, you know, when I think about stuff that makes me tired, it's, between planning, growing, harvesting, and then preserving, but then mentally looking at what you have growing and saying, okay, I have my tomatoes here. I need 5 more cans of tomatoes in my pantry to make it through the next year, you know? And then it's like, okay, so then you have to wait to get 5 more cans worth. But you know, do you or don't you, or are you wasting your time? It's this real back and forth.
There's a bit of mental gymnastics around this time of year. It's tiring in and of itself, you know? So it's, what can you call a time of death on, right? What do you feel like you're satisfied with? What are you still trying to nurture and save? And that's just, you know, I mean, I have one tomato plant. By the time this airs, I'm sure I would have, you know, cut it down. It's the determinate Roma. That's basically, I feel like it's been dead as soon as I planted it, you know, but I mean, it's given me pounds and pounds and pounds of tomatoes. But it's just looked terrible most of the summer. And at this point, you look at it and say, all right, you've done your job. And you have to kind of, I don't know if I'm putting the plants out of their misery or me out of my misery. It's kind of like one less thing to have to manage and deal with in the garden. Yeah.
You know, and for me, I got to tell you, man, I think I'm going to grow determinate tomatoes next year. These indeterminates are too crazy for me. It's like, damn. I mean, my plant's 9 feet tall and now it's curling down and over, and it adds to that fight though. You know, that's those little things that add up, and it's like, okay, I'm going to top this plant. Okay, and I'm going to come back and say, oh, it's getting too much shade. And, you know, it's just this whole back and forth. And it's important to realize, like, you're almost there. You're almost at the finish line. You know, you're in mile 23 of the marathon. You know, you got another 5K to go. Just keep going. Keep pushing, slap some fall crops in, because you're going to be happy you did. And especially when you get you a fresh harvest of collards for Thanksgiving, you're going to be happy you did that, you know? And I think those are the things that comes with experience that help me go through each and every day or each and every season, is like, I know what that feeling is going to be like when it's all said and done.
So let me ask you. I think
that's what keeps me going.
Are you tired of the garden experience in general, or are you tired of a particular phase or a particular set of plants?
Honestly, summer plants really take their toll. They can be a real bitch. I mean, straight up, they're really can be an issue. You know, I've got, you know, as of this moment right now, I have successfully treated leaf spot on my tomatoes, so I got rid of it mostly.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I have powdery mildew all over the place. I have things that aren't getting enough sun that are dying off because the sun is now lower in the sky and the days are getting shorter, so things are getting less light. So I'm dealing with that. I have, you know, I've been fighting multiple bugs. I've got cucumber worms. I've got all these different things going on, and in the fall and the spring, it's like all I have to worry about is cabbage looper. That's it. You know what I mean? Like and aphids. That's about it. I don't get a lot of these diseases because you don't have the heat and the humidity constantly, and so it really does take its toll. And I'm trellising 9-foot tomatoes right now. You know, like everything else in the summer or in these other times of years are all low to the ground. You don't need to build anything for them. They can just grow, and you can go cut and come again generally. So
so on one hand, it's like it's the summer of vegetables. So the vegetables that do well, and for most of us, summertime, like you have people in some places that will grow tomatoes in the fall going into winter, but I think you guys get our gist. So those vegetables are more demanding, right? They're more needy. And based on the time that a lot of us grow them in, the weather is like we're battling it, you know? So the heat, the rain spurts, the humidity. I always forget every year that I try to get out like right as the sun comes up, because in my mind, I'm going to beat the heat. But then I always get that stark reminder of, but it's been humid all night, baby. Like, you know, like you're going to get out there and it's just going to be just as icky, you know?
Yeah. I mean, dude, we went out the other day and I told David, same thing, you know, let's go out, let's work in the garden real quick before the sun gets high. And we'll do like an hour of something before the sun really starts to hit. And we can also like work in different sections of the yard based on that. But a lot of times I'm like, look, it just gets, once you get hot, it's done. We had to come in and take our clothes off and hang them up, you know, because you're drenched in sweat. That stuff is just exhausting, you know, and the constant planning and plotting. I mean, dude, I feel like I'm like planning to take over the world at this point. Like, you know what I mean? And I just have a small garden, but I feel like I'm like, all right, here we go. You know, we're going to war. And it's just like this constant thing.
Listen, if I fucking feel the same way, dude. Like, sometimes I sit back and I'm like, am I planning the next takeover? What am I thinking? Like,
yeah. You know, it's crazy. And it's just this uphill battle sometimes. But the ultimate story is it's worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm sorry, guys. I just, I couldn't put my finger on it. I've been thinking about it for the last couple of weeks, and that's exactly it. That peeling of what you're doing is in your mind so big, and it absolutely is important to us individually, you know. But then it also is that moment of like, just relax a sec, you know. Like, so yeah. The saddest part though is I'm gonna miss being tired in this way in a few months, you know. Yeah. And luckily for me, I can kind of keep it going a little bit. But even then, it gets easier and easier and easier. And, you know, like this year, I have to start my seeds in December for some stuff. So before Christmas, I'm going to be starting seeds, which is ridiculous to think about. But that's all an effort to keep my timing up. So I feel like this is a never-ending process now. Like it never stops. Yeah, it never ever stops. I feel like I'm just in this like black hole of like garden all the time, which I don't even know why I sound like I'm bitching now. It sounds pretty great. Yeah, well, you know what though, and I'm going to be joining you probably for some flowers. I was just talking about this recently. Some of the flowers that if we are already reflecting, which we're not because it's a mini-sode, my indoor flowers didn't really take off the way I wanted. Things just bloom so late in the season, and it goes back to when I started them indoors. So I'll be starting some of those earlier. So you're right. I mean, I'm thinking maybe there's a short break sometime between like November and December for me. Maybe, you know, because to be quite frank, I'm still going to have potentially some vegetables that just came out of the garden before our last frost, you know, so, or our first frost. I always get those mixed up. But
well, you're going to be, if you were making compost, you would be busy as hell.
Oh, a good thing I'm not making
because that's the time to kind of fill it up. You know what I mean? That's when I really get the bulk of my compost made or started. So, you know, and that's part of my journey is doing that. So I made a joke on one of the last YouTube videos where it's like, damn, all you see this guy's always digging his compost pile, always talking about it. Just because that's so important and do so much of it. Yeah. And it really does take time. Yeah. You know, but it's worth it. In my mind, it's worth it for now. We'll see how it all pans out. Because I'm 75% there of supplying my own needs for the year.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm nowhere near there, but you have reminded me that I really need to hunker down in the front yard garden and amend some of the beds. I need to do more than I have been doing because I've noticed a few deficiencies this year because this would be the third summer I've grown. Oh, you know, so that's
things are starting to rear their heads. Yeah.
So I have to put some time and energy into that. But you know what? I think once we kind of switch gears, I think there's a reset button that happens at least in my head. So when I switch from one thing to another, right now though, it's all kind of mixed in together. You know, so you're harvesting, you're still tending to what's newly planted for fall crops. You know, you're replanning your takeover of the world for next year, right? Like all of that stuff is happening at the same time. Once I get to kind of a singular path, I think it's a little bit easier and refreshing for me.
Yeah. Well, this year I'm going to be dropping some trees, so that should be fun. So, well, you know, I'm going to be trying to create more sunlight and at the same time I'll be using them to line my yard and my gardens. So, with the actual tree itself. Yeah. So I don't feel really all that bad about it because ultimately I think the experience will save on time and overall footprint should be smaller. So no food transportation. The more food I grow, the better we are.
Hear, hear.
So, and on that note, I'm going to go take a nap because it is the end of this Minisode and we are running low on time. So, Batavia, tell them something good.
See ya.
A lot of y'all asked, how can you help support the Backyard Gardens podcast? Well, we have been busy and we have created a t-shirt line just for the gardener.
To visit our shop, go to the link in the show notes and check out the t-shirts and other goodies we have.
Now, these are super special t-shirts designed just for the gardener. So enjoy. Thank you for supporting the Backyard Gardens podcast, and we'll see you guys after the harvest. Thanks for hanging out with us today. If you want to see what we're up to or just stay up to date on all the announcements regarding the show or anything gardening, then you can follow us on Instagram at Backyard Gardens TV.
We love seeing what you guys are doing, so use hashtag BYG podcast in your posts, and we'll be sharing your gardens with the Backyard Gardens community.
And check us out on YouTube at Backyard Gardens, where we will post this show, all of our other shows, clips, and then also some gardening tips and just gardening entertainment. And you can see us at our website at backyardgardenstv.com. But that's it for today's show. So help us as we learn to grow and grow for change. And until next time, we'll catch you guys later. We'll call this one a wrap.
Now you know why people feel like celebrating at harvest time.
All over the world, people have feasting and good times when the crops have been gathered in.